Welcome to the Men of Honor podcast. My name is Corey, your host, and I've got Edu with me, and we are going to be talking about being dads. I think as entrepreneurs, and we're chasing our entrepreneurial dream, it can be quite a struggle in terms of our wives and children because you're trying to figure things out, and sometimes it's not quite all layering onto each other in terms of finances and stuff. What I've been pursuing. My wife knows that I've been doing this for quite some time, and she's fully supportive. But we also have internal things that we have not shared. Personally, I've not shared my kids' stories, but I have challenges in my own house in terms of my kids. In 1 year, they've both been diagnosed with something. So my son was first diagnosed with autism, and he's gone throughout his life. We knew that there was something that was a bit different. He's managed to discover ways of masking it in terms of the interactions that he can have. So he can have interactions with somebody looking at their face, but then he's also got mannerisms and things that show him that he needs patterns, he needs routines, and in terms of even doing his exams, we needed to create a pattern and things for him in order for him to succeed. And Edu, in your situation, I think you got something similar. In fact, my other daughter, my other kid was a girl. She's got ADHD, which is quite different from. So we've got a very chilled out kid and a very hyper kid. So you can imagine my house is quite can be a bit chaotic, but we sort of get along, and they get along to a certain extent. They got a 10-year difference in terms of age. But in terms of your family, Edu, you got something a little bit similar with your son.
Yeah, so I've got two sons. I've got Luca, he's 10, and I've got Lorenzo, he's 5. He was born with a teratoma. And then I think after 2 days after he was born, he went through a surgery. And then we actually could hold him after 30 days. So my wife, she went through a lot of pain because actually, I think the dream of every mom is to hold their kids once they're born. And she didn't have she couldn't do it. He was taken straight away to a different hospital where he was kept for 2 days, I think, and he had an operation straight away because the risk he was quite big. Because like for you guys that don't know, teratoma is a tumor, and because the tumor there was a loads of veins. The heart had to pump a lot of blood into the tumor, and it was growing quite quickly, so it had to be removed as soon as possible. And then after that, he was like 2 years, and then we found that he was very different from Luca, because we had Luca, and then we tend to compare. He's a bit different, he's a bit slow, and then I said to my wife, I think it's just because he went through an operation, he had a lot of trauma, so it might be the effect of it. And she said, no, I think there's something else. And then when he was 3,
mother's intuition type thing.
Because I thought, because Luca is a bit hype. He's all over the place. He's very chatty. I call him Chatbox. He talks to everyone. He's playing all the time. He's really happy. And Lorenzo was a bit slow. Lorenzo, I think he sat for the first time when he was 6 months. Luca was walking when he was 7. So there is a huge difference between each other. But I told my wife, I said, I think it's just because of the trauma he's been through. He might be taking some time, to develop himself. And so, but when he was 3 years old, we were having his birthday party, and like there's about 15 kids, and he was ignoring all the kids. He was playing with a leaf. He found like a dead leaf, and he was playing with the leaf for like hours. I was like, oh my gosh. And then my wife called me. She said, just watch Lorenzo. So he was in the garden. All the kids are playing, they're playing with water guns and stuff like that. And he was in a different world. He was in a different space. So I was like, as a parent, we don't want to see that.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I think we should call the midwife or whatever we can to seek some support. And then after a year, it took a very good year and almost a year and a half for us to get the full diagnosis. And then we found out he had autism, and that was really heavy. We knew that he had all the symptoms and everything, but when we see the doctor sign confirm that he actually is true, it's a bit heavy.
I can imagine because I think for us we knew, and I think we knew going ahead in terms of my son 18, in order for him to actually have, because he's now becoming an adult, we knew he was going to have a challenge, and we knew that there was something that was not quite right. So we did regret not getting him diagnosed sooner. Plus, when we did try to get him diagnosed, it's in the UK. It's incredibly long process, and we were lucky enough to have family members help out in terms of getting. So both of our kids were diagnosed privately because we decided it's better just to get it done straight away. In terms of treatment, which is weird again in the UK, if you get diagnosed privately, the government won't pay for treatment. So like if your child has to go on any medication. So my daughter, who was quite hyper and is now beginning to affect her in terms of school. So she doesn't have the ability to sit still and then focus.
Mm.
Now she's super intelligent, like picks up stuff, but she never stops long enough to concentrate so she can pick up the stuff. So with the doctor suggested medication and stuff, and when they suggested that, we were a bit apprehensive with the whole thing, but at the same time, it's the fact that once you get that diagnosis, it's something that now is her label, and it's my son's label, and because they have that on them, like my question is, it's difficult as a father, and as a parent, and as a co-parent with my. What are your like you? I'm sure you got challenges because it's quite challenging. I will face the same. What are your strategies together in order to make things work for you in terms of your relationship, but also for your older son? What are the things that you've put in place to make it work for you guys?
Yeah, that's quite interesting because as soon as we start doing the treatment, they placed in a group of parents, which everyone has the same situation inside of their house. And for some reason, people they love label, and it was like, I'm not gonna label my son.
Yeah.
He has autism, but it's no part of his identity.
That's
And the
right.
first thing I note that people love autism. They loved, oh, it's my child that has autism. I was like, no, I have my son. Lorenzo is my son. And although he has autism, I'm not gonna love autism.
Yeah.
So I'll do everything against autism. So anything that I'll be able to help him, like therapies, treatment, anything that I can learn to help him out, I'm gonna do on my own. Because the first thing that the doctor said, oh, we have to give him medication. And then I started studying what's the cause effect of the medication, and then would numb my children.
That's right.
Would numb Lorenzo. I was like, I don't wanna have this to him. So I'm gonna go after for treatment that actually works. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they once they receive the paper, or when the doctor signs, they start loving that, that label that the doctor just confirmed. I was like, no, he can have a normal life. So we start studying other kids, especially in US. They have like very good treatments in US through therapies, and some of them using like animals. Some of them like taking the kids to the beach. There is some other treatment alternative instead of just giving medication.
I think that's the direction what we're taking now. So part of the thing is MMA. She loves MMA. Part of it is horse riding and looking after horses in terms of a means of way of therapeutic. So getting her on long periods of focusing on one thing, and that's the method that we're taking at the moment.
Mm.
They have said she it's gonna be better if she goes on medication. We don't want to go on medication
Yeah.
for that respect, because we have a family friend with a child that was on medication, and it, you lose your child. It becomes a completely, because she's got so much personality, she's got so much um sass and everything,
Hmm.
and that's her personality, and that's almost muting, putting her on mute. And I think that's the challenge for us when we think about that. But I want to know, in terms of like your relationship as parents, so when you face those challenges, what's the pressure that comes on your relationship? Is there sort of pressures that you come across in terms of a relationship?
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure, especially because like it's something out of the ordinary when you have like special, a special child.
Yeah,
Everything is different, all the challenge. So if you like, if you have a kid, is already a challenge, but when you have a special kid, the challenge, doubles.
that's right.
And I think like especially into the relationship, it needs to be very um, you have to have a very strong commitment with each other, because anything can stand in a way, especially like when you start spending time with the treatment, or spending time with certain thing to resolve a issue. That can become a very big bubble, you know and then when, like, if you're not talking to your wife or to your husband, that can become a very big issue,
Yeah,
because all the time that you have available, you are sorting out problems, like
that's right.
problems, like we all have problems, like financial problems. We have to sort things out. But most of the time when we are talking to husband and wife, we are talking about problems. So and that increases when you have a special child,
That's right.
you know so you have to have a time where you say, look, we're not going to talk about that. We have to spend time and know each other, just having fun, or drink something, or just play a puzzle or cards together, know each other outside of no talking about problems, no talking about the kids, even though it come up on the conversation,
It
because
just
we love
it
them.
comes
It
back up.
comes up,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But then you have to have that intimacy approach, where we'll be knowing each other, that I think you put the boundaries together again, and then so that everyone is facing, because like you don't know what your wife is facing. She's got a different view of her life.
No, it's
It's
absolutely true. I think that's one of the things that, because we had been sort of we were consistent in parenting, and because before the diagnosis, we would sort of try and do the best we can to um, parent her in a way, especially my daughter. I think with our son, because he's on a spectrum of autism, he was still social, he was still close enough to be a normal boy.
hmm
So with ADHD is a bit different. So she's hyper, she's quite impulsive. There's stuff that she will do that will not make rational sense. So in terms of me, I'm not very. It sounds like I'm very patient, but sometimes I'm not very patient. So I would just go off on one like, "Oh,
uh,
what are you doing?" And she sometimes can be patient, and sometimes we'll find this role reversal where I'm very patient with her, and then she's losing it. my wife is losing it, and then we read a book recently. It's called 1, 2, 3 something. I forgot the name actually, but in fact, she read it because I'm dyslexic, so I read a lot of books, but I read them through audio, so I go through quite a lot of books. But she had to read the actual paperback because it would have taken me 2 years to read. But the challenge is now trying to be parenting the same way, because I'm still flying off the handle, but she seems to be a bit more patient. So for me, that's one of the things I find challenging, to actually, be calm, and you know, uh, I tend to sort of link problems. So if she does one thing, I still link it back to the same other thing. But with her, she doesn't do one thing and then do the next, and they're linked. Because of her, she's impulsive. They're always completely different. So when I'm telling her off for 10 things, but all those 10 things are completely massively different. Whereas my wife has now got, she's managed to master that she deals with one thing at a time, and she deals with it in a way that resolves it.
Mm-hmm.
So my challenge is I try and link
Yeah,
everything
but
together, and then just try and just like almost like a massive tsunami on it, and
yeah.
then that's been my challenge, and something that I'm now beginning to learn to actually do as a parent. And again, if you link this to what we're doing as entrepreneurs and what's already going on in our lives, it's something that as you mentioned, you're constantly learning and stuff like that. So, but in terms of the relationship between your kids, what is that like between the
Well,
two of you?
between this time, I've learned that you have to know the courts that you're playing with, because like for us, when you because believe me or not, people they take time to study how to take their driver license. They study how to take this and how to take that, but they don't have time to study how to raise a family, and that's become a very big issue because you spend the moment that you are married until you or your wife dies, you spend your time with them, and you don't know how to raise a family. And this is because this is your source of energy. This is whatever you do, you're gonna do for your family. This is what happens at the end of the day, and you have to learn what court you are playing at. Do you know what I mean? Like if you are playing with in a soccer or in a football field,
Yeah.
where you come up with a basketball there, it doesn't make any sense. So when I'm at home, like I'm playing in my son's court, so I'll become another. I'm not his friends. I'm their dads, and I'm there to raise them, but I play with them as a kid. We roll on the floor, we spend some time together, we put puzzle together, we do a lot of fun. Like when I move to my wife, then I'll play her husband. When I move to business, I play entrepreneur. So every time I move into different court, I carry with me a different ball. So this is how I play. And then it was amazing because then since I gave up my 9 to 5, I've learned to be a kid again. And it's amazing. It's amazing. Although I'm there, to raise my kids, I'm having fun. I'm having good time with them. It's not easy, man. I always dreamed, oh, okay, I'm gonna play some cards and video games, and but when you're tired at the end of the day,
No,
and they come
exactly.
up with loads of Lego. Oh, we need to build the Lego, and then you go like, okay, fine, I asked for it. But it's amazing. It's amazing. Like you have time with your kids, teach them how they're gonna face life. It is and play with actually be a kid again with them. I think memories, this is what they're gonna carry for life. So it's easy for you to go and sit down in the corner. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. But then when you see life with their eyes, they're just growing up. They need friends. They need someone to play with. And I remember like a few times my dad played with me. I carry with me until now. And this is what I learned with like throughout the autism, because all led since my wife discovered my son had autism. It led me to give up my 9 to 5, become an entrepreneur, and now it's leading my life in a different way. So
In terms of your kid now, it's quite interesting what you said. And in terms of your kids, like how your older son, how does it relate with your?
it's a fight all the time. It's a big fight all the time because like Lorenzo, he's very organized.
Yeah.
Like when he's putting all his his uh, toys on the floor, he wants to be very organized, and then Lucas come like just kicking everything. It's a fight, man, but they're kids. I remember I used to do that with my sisters as well, and it becomes a little bit harder because Lorenzo doesn't understand. Luca wants to play with him as a brother, and Luca is only 10, but he doesn't have the knowledge that uh, Lorenzo has some limitations. And
Oh, it's quite interesting actually because we have this and there's a concept that I learned a few months ago that we as people, based on personality and the way we live life, you either a scientist or an artist. So a scientist, you would have methods and ways, and everything is structured and everything else. And then there's some people like you and me who are just artists. So I don't want to be in a 9 to 5. I don't want to be doing things in a methodic way. I want to go and create my own thing. And you become an artist. So, like, obviously, it sounds like your kids are similar to mine, where you got one artist and then you got one scientist. So if you put them in one room,
yeah.
it's absolute chaos because, the young one is the artist, and the older one is is a scientist. You know, he likes things in a certain way. Everything is structured, and she just comes in. She's like a bull in a china shop, just pretty much crazy. And it is a challenge, but I guess one of the things that I think is that it's helped him become. There's a bit of artistry that is been rubbing off on him. I don't think the scientist is rubbing off onto her just yet, but I find that sometimes it can be a challenge for us. Lockdown was probably the best for them, because before it was constant war, like, you know, get out of my bedroom and whereas now he just sort of allows her to come and stay, because she just loves him and she wants to spend time with him, but he's 18. He wants his own space, and now he sort of allows it just to spend time in his space. So it's interesting, and I wanted to know, like, it's nice to know that it's not just me. Like, it's not only my house where there's kids, you know, and it's good.
Yeah, kids being kids. So we let you know. I mean, we have to let them be kids, man, because it goes so fast. And this is what they're gonna carry as a memory for life, and have this good time. Although they fight a lot, you can see that they love each other. So I think it might be a similar case, you know, on your situation. So at the end of the day, they still love each other, and I think that happens to, you know, to every family.
It does, and I think that's the thing. Though, we're making this episode most of to other entrepreneurs that maybe are in a similar situation, and your children might not even have autism or any special needs of some sort, but just being a parent in itself is a massive challenge, because from the moment that baby is born, they are a time-sucking machine. So they require a lot of your time, and you know, as they get older, maybe it's a lot less time. And up until now that my son is 18, there's still a bit of time that is required from us as parents to make sure that he's okay. He's more self-sufficient, and as my daughter gets older, she's getting more self-sufficient with other things, but still requires a large amount of time. So as entrepreneurs, the most vital thing that we have is time, and how we divide our time is quite important. And sometimes we almost emphasize more on the business side of things, and I'm guilty of this. And I like the way you talk about, you know, getting that balance of being able to use different balls for different courts. And I think that's quite important, and something that as entrepreneurs we should strive to have those different times, because I think you have to live your life by design, and one of the things is to be able to make time for your family.
That's
And
right.
yeah. And sometimes we don't, and sometimes, again, it's not even time as in you being present, it's actually you being present mentally as well, you know. And I've suffered from that one as well, and it's something that I'm working towards, that I'll be there in person but I'm not there because my mind is somewhere in
It's
the
all over
internet
the place,
space,
yeah.
thinking about what's the next strategy, what's the next thing, and everything else. So yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And
That's why a lot of people they you know, they say, oh, I miss this, I miss that time, because they're never present. You know, this is a concept I've learned. That's why if you ask me if I miss some time, I don't miss it, because I'm always, you know, fully present now. It's difficult, it's hard, because like sometimes you're still thinking of an email that you should have sent, a word that you should have said, a video that you should have recorded. But the other day I was having a meeting and my wife called me and she said, oh, where are you? And then I said, I'm with somebody. And she said, I need to speak to you. I said, does it have to be now? Because now I'm with him. And she said, oh, it's just because I want to see. And she wants to do something. I said, no, I'm with him now, you know, and
Yeah.
can be like in an hour. She said, okay, fine. And then we took an hour. We had a lunch and everything. And then I said, now I'm all yours. Because like if you are with somebody and then you're paying attention to something else, that time will never come back again. And then you're 50-50. You neither enjoyed the time or
Yeah.
whatever you're doing, and you never, because in the future you never solved anything.
That's right.
So you have to be there, you know, at that time present, doing that thing now. So when the time comes for you to send the email or solve that problem, then you'll be there. Because if you be there thinking of the time that you should have spent with your kids, you're not doing anything.
Right.
It makes sense. So this is one thing that I've learned, and I was like, oh, that really, really changed my life. And then I stopped missing things. So today, when I have an opportunity, I'm fully always I say yes. If you call me to do something, I'll say yes. I'll figure out how I'm going to do it, because I don't want to go back in time and say, oh, I should have done that. Oh, I missed this. I missed that opportunity. And unfortunately, like when with our kids, because we think that there is something more important than being with them. It's so at the end of the day, then you're going to realize that the time has passed and your kid has grown, and that time will never come back again. So like I'm trying, like after 7 o'clock, I'll just put my phone on flight mode, and then I'll be there with them. I'll bath them, I'll put them into bed, play with them, 9 o'clock. So I spend full 2 hours with them, and I have an opportunity to drop them off, pick up them from school, sit down, have dinner with them, lunch with them. And so all the time that I'm with them, I make sure I'm fully present, playing something, always playing cards or something that we engage with each other, because otherwise my mind will be somewhere else.
That's right. That's crazy. I love talking about this, because I think this is stuff that most people don't want to talk about. They sort of, I've been in the entrepreneurial space for quite some time, and a lot of people talk about transparent, and they've talked about their child having some special needs. They've talked about you need to spend time with the family. They've talked about, but they sort of always still paint a picture of like it's easy. But I like the way that you've been open, that it's not easy, but you're doing the best you can, and you've given us strategies as well of what you've done to make it good for your family, and that's amazing. And thank you very much for that. And I've personally learned something as well. So like, especially being present is something that I'm actually working towards, because sometimes I'm not present because my mind is constantly, it's like the entrepreneur thing in my head, because I'm an artist. I'm constantly flooded with ideas, and sometimes I'm just constantly dealing with something, and I need to. The flight mode thing is definitely something I'm going to start doing. Like, just put my phone, no notifications, just shush.
I think creating an event inside of the house, so it makes things very exciting for that certain day to come of the week. Like what I've done, I've put a family Friday. Okay, so I've been doing that for nearly 2 years now.
That's amazing,
and so what I do every Friday is like a little house party. Okay, no matter what, I'll do my family Friday. And I think I've canceled once. Even like when we travel, we do it. Because like today, when you talk to Luca, the best day of the week is Friday, because it's a family day where we sit on the floor. He chooses a move. We normally buy something, like a pizza or something like a barbecue or whatever, to make that thing special. So we have like 2 hours where we are sitting on the floor as a kid. We let him, choose the move what we're going to watch or do, the play that we want to, to engage with each other. So every Friday is an excitement. So, is it Friday yet? Is it Friday yet? So yesterday I was putting Lorenz to bed, and he was like, is it Friday coming? I was like, no, it's only Monday. So that really works. And then they'll carry that, that memory for life, man.
It's amazing. And they're creating good memories for your kids. That's inspirational. Right. I think, thank you very much for coming to this podcast again.
Thank you for having me here.
And if you want to learn more, guys, join the Men of Honor Facebook group. And if you got any questions, send us on Instagram. I'll put them on the links. If you like any of this content, please leave a review, good or bad, as well as share with your friends. So if you know this content will be helpful to them. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope to be seeing you guys soon. So take care.